Hey everyone, this is me, Chris, and I'm making a video right now because I really want to about something that's been on my mind lately. As you know, less than 48 hours ago, there was the shootings at the Batman premiere at the movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, and when I first heard about it, it was kind of a big story to me because I have family who actually lives right in Aurora, and I was really concerned. When I first heard about it, I just made sure that everybody was okay and that people that I knew weren't like involved in any of it. But besides that, bigger issue at hand that I feel that I've been watching unfold that the media for the most part somewhat, but other than kind of really ignoring it.
I turned on the TV earlier today and I was watching, I think, CNN, and they were just kind of discussing like the backstory about James Holmes and like who this guy was and talking about why on earth would a guy just go in a theater and shoot up 70 people? And then I've kind of seen this recurring theme from the media, both there and across the internet, that they're kind of pinning the thing on, oh, video games these days are too violent, or oh, well, maybe if people had guns or whatever, or if there was more security there, this issue wouldn't have happened. And I feel like pinning that as the ultimate issue behind that is really getting us nowhere because I think that the real issue here is something a lot deeper that a lot of people really don't talk about much. And I just really want to touch on that right now. And when I first looked at that and kind of was like, why are they talking about video games when we have an obviously troubled person here who went up and shot up a bunch of people? So I went and talked to my dad about it, and we were just kind of diving in, and he basically said the same thing. I have no idea why somebody would go do that. And I thought about it for a while, and I don't know how or why, but I just came to me like, Dad, I can really understand why somebody would do that. And he looked at me like, what? And I was like, you haven't grown up in this time. And in this time period, I feel it's a lot more challenging for young people today to really uh, figure out who they are, like form their identity. And I know for me, like growing up wasn't exactly the easiest time. In high school, middle school, there were a lot of times where I felt kind of lonely, to be honest. And I mean, I did have friends here and there, but they were like surface friends. They were the kind of people that you'd walk by during passing period and be like, "Hey, how are you? Oh, good, good. That's awesome." And that would be all you'd ever really say. And there wasn't much digging after that. And when problems start happening, those kind of friends are the people that aren't necessarily going to show up in your life. And I remember for me growing up, there were a lot of hard times for me. And when hard times did come up, I really just wanted somebody to like talk to. And unfortunately, it felt like nobody was there. And when it got to that point for myself, I got really, really frustrated to the point where I started looking at people differently. Like, I remember a couple of days, I just woke up, went to school, and looked at everybody like everybody has somebody to talk to, and I don't. Because of that, I feel like they have something that I lack. And because I had that feeling that I lacked something and had kind of this lack of validation, that it just made me a bitter person. And I just kind of felt jaded and bitter all the time, just like walking by and looking at everybody and be like, whatever, whatever. Can't believe these guys. And it was just a really lonely time. And as time went by, those feelings didn't get better. In fact, they actually escalated and got worse. And I remember for me, it got to the point where I've honestly never told anybody this, but it got to the point where I felt so lonely at times that I was starting to just have really violent thoughts that I was looking around, and when people did something that I thought was frustrating for like even the silliest reason, I'd be like, I really want to tear their freaking head off right now. Just having that kind of feeling. And
it actually kind of got to the point where I looked around and was like, oh my gosh, if I had a gun in my hand right now, I could seriously do some damage. Like, it kind of got to that point where I could understand why the two shooters at Columbine went and rounded up 12 people, shot them all, and then killed themselves. And it was a really low time. And man, when I kind of got to that conclusion, I did a little more research, and the guys in Columbine growing up never really had anybody, and it just grew to the point they felt so lonely that their only option was just to shoot up an entire school. And I did some digging on this guy, James Holmes, and even on the same CNN broadcast that I was watching only about an hour ago, they kind of keyed in that growing up, he was a kind of the guy that nobody really knew or nobody ever really wanted to know. And he was kind of pretty much a blip on the radar that when they interviewed people, they couldn't even like disclose key information on him. He was just that one guy in the back of the class who happened to have a brain. And when I heard that, it kind of just really made me think back to those times growing up where I felt lonely and that people really isolated me. And when it got to that point, I kind of looked at it and was like, how did that guy end up going off on 70 people? And why am I here right now, a different person? And looking at that right now, it made me think back of when I was about 14 or 15. I'm 20 now, so I'm not too removed from this. Yeah. Anyways, when I was 14 and 15, I had this really good friend. I'm not going to name his name. He probably knows who he is if he sees this. Um, I had this really good friend, and I just remember meeting him for the first time, and he just started talking to me. Like, I know it was about a stupid conversation, like some video games that I played. I mean, I was 14. That's pretty much all I did back then. About video games, and then all of a sudden, he just kind of dig deeper, like, was asking me random questions about games that nobody would ask. Like, it shocked me. Why is somebody actually spending time to get to know who I am? And then just it just really affected me knowing that there was somebody who not just like asked how I was doing, but really how I was doing, like digging so deep, like really wanting to get to know me as a person. And it really affected me. And knowing that somebody out there actually wanted to invest time in me really validated me as a person. And I never forgot that. And honestly, that experience really inspired me to just not be so bitter. I still had tough times growing up, but I started really putting myself out there and getting involved in activities and really just trying to do the same. I knew there were some other people out there, especially in high school, that looked really lost, and I started just sitting down talking to them like, hey, I'm Chris. Who are you? Uh, just really not just asking them surface stuff, but really getting to know them, know their heart, know who they are as a person. And when it got to that point, I could tell that I had made a difference in that person's day. And even though it was just a little thing, like it took only a couple minutes of effort, it really made a difference for somebody. And knowing they felt that way reminded me back to that time. And the reason I'm talking about this right now is because I feel like if one of those people that they interviewed in the broadcast for getting information on James Holmes just actually stopped and, maybe took the time to get to know him and ask him, just even ask him to lunch or something, maybe that bitterness would have stopped. Maybe that feeling of I'm lacking something would have just ended. And what I'm really getting at is maybe if we actually took more time to get to know the people around us instead of just staying in our own little bubble or comfort zone, we could really make a difference. I remember the day before, like a little before this whole thing actually happened, I was with a couple of friends and we were just out having dinner. It was a little late, and this lady came up to us and she basically showed us she was on her last legs and she needed some cash just so she could get some groceries for her family. And I remember I just took $20 out of my wallet without even a second thought, gave it to her. And funny thing is, we actually ended up like praying for her and making sure that she would be okay and just being a light to her. And what I really want you to take away from this is, for some people out there, they feel really lost right now. There are just so many lost people in this world that feel like I did at that point in time, where they don't have anybody, that they start feeling these jaded feelings that I'm looking around and everybody has what I don't. And I really think that I hear a lot of, oh, well, there are people like that. Maybe it's because there's too many people, so little time, so many different sets of beliefs and values. Those don't sound like reasons to me. Those just sound like excuses. What I'm really getting at is, maybe if we actually just took some time to invest in others and actually really get to know like the people around us, people wouldn't have to eventually get to that point. I know it sounds so stupidly simple, but I know I really made a difference in a lot of people's lives, just like trying to actually spend time getting to know them. I mean, for a lot of people, that sounds like a really bold move, but it's really rewarding. Just go out there and give it a try. Just, I know there's probably that one person that you've probably noticed in the background that not a lot of people talk to, but at the same time, there's not really a pronounced reason why. Just go up to them and be like, hey, how's it going? And you can really make a difference doing that. And I'm at about 12 minutes right now, and I'm thinking about anything else that I could say, and that's really all I have to say about the situation. That maybe if the media actually talked about this more, this would happen more, but until then, it's up to us, man. Just go out there and be a light for everyone. That's all I have to say. Thank you for watching this video.